here's Brody Brazil.
So here on March 18th, 2025, I'm going to suggest this, that through the process of elimination, you might be able to reasonably predict that the future name of the NHL team in Salt Lake City will call themselves the Utah Mammoth. And there's a couple different clues and things to read into. Again, I might be completely wrong here, and I won't delete the video, but you can look back on me and say, what a dummy. But on the other hand, maybe we've seen enough. Maybe there are enough clues to lead us to the idea that one of these three names got selected, and it is the Utah Mammoth. And there's been a little bit of leaks and whispers, and here's Dennis Dodd of CBS saying the other day, sources tell him that the Utah Hockey Club has settled on a nickname. No timeline for release at this point, but the idea that the decision makers have come to their decision, at least that's what Dennis is reporting here. And that would be no surprise. They were down to 3, and they've been at that spot now for more than a month, and they probably already had some favorites. Heck, Yeti was probably the ideal frontrunner for so many months until that was ruled out of possibility. So down to 3, the Outlaws, the Mammoth, and just Utah Hockey Club. But now we get more from Cole Bagley of KSL Sports in Salt Lake City. Cole has this report. According to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, Uyte LLC, the same organization that originally filed for all the Utah Hockey Club names, has applied for and been granted an extension for the Utah Mammoth, that nickname as well as the Utah Hockey Club name. As of February 4th, 2025, an application extension was granted by the United States Patent and Trademark Office for Utah Mammoth. So when I say process of elimination here, if you knew you weren't going to use Mammoth, you just let the trademark and the patent expire, right? You don't renew it. And in terms of also renewing the hockey club name, well, that is the current name, and who knows when they're going to make the switch. So it would only make sense to keep Utah Hockey Club no matter what. But the fact that they're also keeping Mammoth in existence, that to me might be the hint that they've made their choice. Now, unfortunately, if this is how we're finding out unofficially and then officially they announce it, it's unfortunate that all this legal stuff has to happen and these breadcrumbs are left and these clues are out there. But quite honestly, that's just the way the world works, right? You can't pick a name last minute and then have somebody else say that they were squatting on it, or at least in the case of like the Yeti Cooler Company, they say you can't do this. They need to make sure that they can do this the right way. And so they have to go through this process behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Outlaws will not require an extension until April. And Outlaws was always the name seen as, well, kind of the outlier. It was thrown back into the mix after Wasatch was introduced and then removed from the conversation. So to me, I think what I'm reading here, if I'm interpreting this correctly, it's not that Outlaws is not being renewed or extended. It's the fact that it doesn't need it until April, but the fact that they kept Mammoth in there before they needed to. Like if they were going for Outlaws, right, then they simply wouldn't have renewed Mammoth and they just would have kept the Utah Hockey Club name. Again, it's all in the fine details here, and I've thought long and hard about this, well, since I came across this information a little bit ago, but you can kind of read between all these lines and figure out that it's probably going to be the Mammoth. While the Utah Hockey Club would not comment on the patent extension, President of Hockey Operations Chris Armstrong recently shared that the club is still in the process of finalizing their new name. Quote, he said, "Every day we get closer, but not there yet." End quote. Frank Saravalli had this from, I don't know, was it about a month and a half ago when the hockey club had these 3 concepts out there. They did this in person. They tried not to make it digital at all. They didn't want to send it in an email. They didn't want it to be on anybody's phones. And then, yeah, it got on somebody's phones and then it reached the internet and it spread like wildfire. Mammoth, Outlaws, and Hockey Club, not just the names, but also the fact that they're going to keep the colors, some graphic depictions here of different logos and jerseys and the crest. So they were trying to wet your whistle a little bit and show you what these names and images might look like. And I apologize for the low quality resolution here, but all this kind of got bootlegged, to be honest. And again, if they did the Utah Hockey Club, which I got to tell you in my takeaways, it's still a front runner. I mean, Mammoth is okay, but Utah Hockey Club with the Yeti logo, I'm telling you, it's not a bad look. The Utah Mammoth, you have an idea that it would be the mammoth with the long curved tusks, like that's going to be the logo, that's going to be the crest. That's the depiction the team gave. This is the Colonel Colby from like last summer. Colby on Instagram put out mock-ups for all the different possibilities of the name of this hockey team. And mammoths, or mammoths, yeah, plural is what he did there. But he did this months ago. And it turns out, like, look at what Colby did with the mock-up, and then look what the team did right down here below. It's basically the same head, the same angle. There are some differences. And you can only do a mammoth, I suppose, so many different ways. But the bottom line is, look at Colby for predicting that. It's pretty crazy. And if they did Outlaws, I just think it's been used before and there's nothing necessarily terribly original about this. And even the logo is just kind of whatever. Colby also did this one. And look how close Colby was on this one too. So maybe Colby's that good, or the team was just being that obvious in their mock-ups and their renderings. But it just goes to show you some of the things that they were considering. All right, here's my takeaways. Number one, at this point, I mean, we're about a month away from the end of the NHL's regular season. If I'm the Utah Hockey Club, I'm trying to go back underground with all of this. Like, it surfaced, you saw those reports, you're seeing all this information. Like, they should just not make any announcement until, let's say, the day after the regular season ends, right? If the hockey club is not going to be in the playoffs, and at last check of the standings, it doesn't seem like they will be, or it's not likely. But my point is, just leave this for after the season, right? You don't want to introduce something new while the team is still playing and then there's some confusion about that. Or like, just take the spotlight when you get it, put it all on you, announce the name right after the end of this season. I think that's the best time. So they should try and lay low, in my opinion, for the time being. Mammoth singular, and I'm glad that they're kind of settling on this. Mammoth singular, I think, is way better than Utah Mammoths. Just because it rolls off the tongue so much better. Utah Mammoth instead of Utah Mammoths. I got to get that S out there at the end. It's too much. Utah Mammoths. Utah Mammoths. Are you going to the Mammoths game? It's not hard to say, but maybe it is hard to say. You say it. Go ahead. You probably didn't do it. Utah Mammoths. I just think is too hard. Utah Mammoth. It's just so much easier coming out of your mouth that way. All of this, though, let's be honest, in my opinion, is second place to the Yeti. That's still sad. That's always going to linger. People are going to talk about that for a decade. Oh, they should be called the Yeti, right? And there's going to be criticism externally and whatever. Nothing the team can do about it. Unfortunately, they probably should have got ahead of that months ago, and I'm sure they did. They probably worked on it as far and as hard as they could with the Yeti Cooler Company, and they just weren't willing to budge. And that's unfortunate that they blocked them out of that. And then I'll leave it with this. My personal belief, it's okay to continue with the name Utah Hockey Club. It's unique. It's kind of original. Nobody else is doing it like that. All you need to do, like, it's boring right now because it doesn't have a mascot. Add that Yeti-looking mascot and call them Yeti Utah, Yeti Ute or whatever. Like, give that mascot a name, but that's not the team's name, right? So you can't be blocked from being called the Utah Hockey Club and your mascot is a Yeti. The Yeti Cooler Company couldn't do that. So, like, keep the name Utah Hockey Club, have your mascot and your logo be a Yeti. People are just going to naturally call them the Yetis once in a while, but they won't officially do that. That's fine. Then you get to keep the name and the logo, but not have to worry about trademark and copyright stuff. Anyway, I'm not mad at Utah Hockey Club. To be honest with you, I've kind of gotten used to it. And Mammoth would be okay too. But if that's what they settle on, I'm also fine with that. It's kind of a 1 and 1A situation for me. Anything beyond Yeti is different and more difficult, but Utah Hockey Club is fine. Utah Mammoth is fine. You let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What's your preference? How do you think this is going to go? And do I have it right by the process of elimination? Is it, in fact, going to be the Utah Mammoth as the team's brand new name? Hey, quick thumbs up down below because this is the end of the video and you made it here all the way to the end. Thumbs up down below helps me, this video, and this channel. And one more thing, don't forget to also go down there and hit that subscribe button. You like my brand new effects? Hit that subscribe button so I can definitely see you back here next time.